Hi, welcome 108. This is week 1. For week 1, I'm backing up and taking us back into unit 9, which we did the end of November. Actually, it's probably the middle of November. So in unit 9, we are reviewing group 1 scales, arpeggios, and root position triads, making sure that we know what quality each scale degree should be. So as you work through unit 9, I want you to think about these group 1 scales, which are C, G, D, A, and E. So those first 5 around that circle of fifths. Remember, with scale fingerings, we found a couple of rules that can help us keep track of what finger is coming next. You're never going to find a thumb or a fifth finger on a black key. Scale fingerings are always adjacent. You're never going to have a fingering go, for instance, 1, 2, 4, skipping over a middle finger. When we put those fingerings together, remember that we had a pattern that can help us see how they're fitting together. Those of you that were with me in 106, we talked about it being tonic, up, watching for your matching threes, right thumb, left thumb, threes, up, tonic. Whenever you have a thumb on tonic, right or left, you're always going to cross with a 4. That was another great point that we could watch for. Threes, right thumb, left thumb, threes up, and tonic, and doing it in reverse. Remember, these scales have to be in 2 octaves and they need to be memorized. Remember that a good practice tip that we also used, if you were with me in 106, is playing them on a non-plane surface. Because if you can see the coordination, tonic, up, threes, right thumb, left thumb, threes, up, tonic, it's a 4 from tonic, threes, right thumb, left thumb, threes, up, home. Then it's going to be a piece of cake to be able to put it on that keyboard going up and down. After you reviewed your scales, it's time to move into those arpeggios. Remember that arpeggio fingerings aren't by group, they're by key color. And the key color is always referring to the root to the third. So white to white, right hand, 1, 2, 3, 5. I wrote 1 octave here, but remember that you are responsible for 2 octaves, and again, you are responsible for a memorized fingering. For white to white in the left, the traditional fingering is 5, 4, 2, 1. However, 3 is an accepted alternative. If you have a small hand or you're feeling any strain here, 3 is an alternative. You need to make sure that you tell your adjudicator on your proficiency that you're doing an alternative fingering. So we'll talk about that choice in class. If you're doing a white to black arpeggio, so for instance D major, where your root is D and your third is black or F sharp, remember it's that third finger in the left hand that changes. So you're always going to have a choice between 4 and 3. 5 is always the root, 2 is always the fifth, and then it's a choice. White to white being the shorter finger, white to black being the higher finger. These scales and arpeggios can be found in your book written out on 124, 125, 126. Please use that for reference, but I really encourage you to practice from memory and looking at the alignment. That's going to be a much faster tool for memorization. The last thing that you need to put with these group 1 keys is refreshing your memory on how we're building triads. Triads in root position is what we're focusing on reviewing this week. So remembering that when you are going up that scale, 2, 3, and 6 being minor, 7 being diminished. Your diminished is occurring naturally with your key signature. You do not need to adjust it. So start with your left hand, and then you can add your right hand in. We will be working this week on pages 130 and 131 with harmonization. I know that the books say play the root. This is review. You've already done that in the past. So we will be working on 130 and 131 with full root position triads, making sure that you're using the correct quality. There's some great sight reading in here. There's some pieces that perhaps you did in the fall with your instructor. Play through them again. See how much you've improved. See what you can perfect on them. If there are pieces that you didn't do in 106, use those as great sight reading material. So Unit 9, review this week. Please get these fingerings back in your memory or memorized if you haven't done so. Same thing with your arpeggio fingerings. Harmonization, sight reading we'll be working on in class. There is no quiz due this week, and I look forward to seeing you all this first week of class.